Would you join me in the pledge? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All the board members are here. We have a study session. So, since Adam is already standing, we'll see if Adam has anything to report to us, please.
Well, nothing really new for the month. Slower month than last month, but last month we did set a record, so didn't expect to keep those numbers up. It's still a pretty good month for us. Total was 303 between 911's transfers and our mobile integrated health. Averages out to 9.7 a day for total and 5.3 just on the 911s. Dispatched en route still stays at 0.87, so well under a minute. One of the times I'm going to kind of be on the cruise about is our back in service time. That number's creeping up a little bit. There were some calls that there were a few outliers this month that extended, whether they be transported to other facilities or take a little extra time to restock and clean up on. So I think that's why that number's a little higher, but that is one of my QI metrics for improvement. I'd like to see that number sub 25, so a little higher than I want. Other than that, you can kind of read through the rest of them. Nothing really jumps out. Second page as usual. Patient still has a choice on where they go, so that's a breakdown of the transports. For lack of a better term, one of our frequent flyers, someone who chronically calls 911. We did have a little bit of an issue with that one this month. I actually went out myself and had a conversation about the proper utilization of 911, so that seems to have solved that issue. Luckily, we don't have to have that conversation very often, but we were utilizing some resources that probably didn't need to be. And so if you guys hear anything about that, you can ask me questions directly. As far as AEDs, 13 of those went up to the Sheriff's Department early last week. I believe they're rolling those out. I will be delivering the rest of the county departments this week, so by the end of this week, all those AEDs will be in service. Oh yeah, I did drop off the bill for that to your office on Friday.
Yep, done.
Other than that, do you guys have any questions for me? Unfortunately, in the COVID world, the cost of business is going up and up and up, so we're still status quo, but I ran into the month reports for, obviously fuel is going through the roof and supplies have pretty much doubled just in this year alone, so it's a fun time to be in business.
Augie, we need to check with the sheriff on that bill to see how much he said he was going to contribute to that from one of his funds, so we need to be in contact, and then I need to take a look at it, see where best to take it out of. It may take, how long have we got to pay that bill?
I believe it's in that 30.
Okay, all right, then we got time.
Yep.
Just want to make sure we get it correctly. Thank you, Adam. Are there any other questions of Adam? Thanks. I'd like to back up and see if we have any public comment. Okay, hearing none. I'm going to kind of reverse order. I think Lisa would like to talk about the solar ordinance a little bit and where they're at, so please.
Using several different counties' solar ordinances and portions of our wind ordinance, I finally came to what I thought could be a stopping point for our draft. And so I emailed it this last week to committee members Derek and Russ, and then also a copy to Jeff. I will point out one thing, that there was only one county that had any fee for application, and that county was zoned in, and I will back up and say that the ordinances I had to look at were all in zoned counties. So that made it tough in the beginning to sort out what I didn't need to look at and what I didn't need to include. So back to the funds, the only county that had any information in there that I found had to do, it included households. And so, not knowing exactly what kilowatt production I was looking at, I just picked the highest one. And that fee was $6,000, and I have, when we talked about that compared to wind, and I think that's apples to oranges, but I just went ahead and said that our application fee was $10,000, because I have no idea what it should be, and I suspect it's more that those that didn't have any information in there should have. So that I wanted to bring to your attention. So the next step is I had left the deadline for Russ and Derek to respond to me as this Thursday, and I already heard verbally from Russ. So at that point then I can go in and do some format changes and anything else they bring to my attention or think needs to be changed or updated. There are some lines that I've highlighted and read because I have no clue, and I'm relying on the Farm Bureau staff for that. So I don't know how long it would take Farm Bureau's legal crew to look at it, so I don't know what the timeline should be moving forward.
Well, we may have to, if we're working on it, we may have to extend the moratorium, okay, at the next meeting, depending on what legal counsel and what Farm Bureau can do. That's my suggestion. Okay. I mean, if we were doing nothing and we were just declaring a moratorium, that doesn't fly, but if we have a reason, then,
And I think on the solar side, that I did not find very many ordinances that had very much in them. They looked to me like some of them were still relying on maybe a boilerplate template, and they were not current. And I didn't want to be caught without thinking about what we needed to consider. So.
if your committee would let us know what they think would be a good delay of the, or continuation of it.
I'll go ahead and email Wyatt too and ask him if he can give me any idea about how long it would take Farm Bureau Legal to review it.
That's fine.
Once I get it printed. It should be Thursday or Friday.
Cool. I know that a couple board members have stated, and I don't know whether they want to talk, but that there are other companies that are looking at future sites for solar. So at least we've heard that's the fact.
Yeah, last week I had a call from a guy in Clark County, and he lives in Clark County just south of the county line, but he owns 360 acres north of the county line, and he's been approached by a company. And it's right east of Oliver, where the power line goes on south, and that's where his ground is. So that's why they're looking at that area, because they've got a power line, and they can get rid of the juice there. So but I didn't ask him whether it was the same company over Kansas, but he has been approached. And I think some other people have been approached in that area too. So there's other areas besides Kansas that they're looking at in the county.
Yes.
I could be wrong, but in the paper over the weekend, it had 800 and some acres for sale north of Kansas. Does that have anything to do with a solar farm or wind farm?
I saw it.
Going up for auction north of Kansas, 800 and some acres.
Right, yeah, it's north,
see that?
east of Kansas.
Right.
And then I think that part of that 800 or 900 acres, there's 100 acres south or north of Paris also
Right.
included in
Hmm.
that. I don't know whether that's
Yeah,
something that somebody's looking at, I don't know.
could be.
I have a question. discussed any of this with Dina to see what the state, like on wind farms, the state has a formula
Yes.
that things,
And you're gonna ask me, and I asked her probably 6 weeks, 2 months ago, because somebody had said that the only change was that it would, instead of being zoned agricultural, it would be zoned commercial. And she had a little bit more information than that, and I'm sorry, I don't recall what it was exactly.
and.
But I did check with her.
So the county, the assessment of the solar farm would be separate from the ground? That's what I need to know about, because the wind farm, a windmill, or a wind turbine is assessed, and then the ground is assessed. And the two, and then the taxes, and the state sets up a formula in order to assess that rotor or turbine. And that's, you know, the same whether you're in Bureau County or whether you're in Boone County. It's the same. So I wondered how to look at what type of tax impact that would have on us and on school districts particularly, if a solar farm is put in.
I will find that email from Dina and I will forward it, and,
And you may have sent it to me and I don't, maybe it
I'll
didn't
forward
reach.
that, and you may need to pipe in and email her back if I wasn't specific enough in my question to her.
Okay. It's basically, is there a formula for solar farms like there is for wind farms to assess the facilities that are put in?
And on decommissioning, I know with the wind farms, we didn't get too involved in that. So on the decommissioning, is in this ordinance, do they have to have a decommissioning plan before we approve a permit, just like on the wind farms?
Yeah, and I took our decommissioning from wind turbines and put it in there, and then looked at other counties, so it is very similar to ours for wind.
So we'll look forward to hearing from your committee, and then we'll discuss it further at the next study session, see where we're at. And that will be on the, what is that, the 20th or 23rd?
22nd is our
20
study session.
22nd, yeah. So we'll see where we're at then and go from there. Any further questions, Lisa, on this issue, or Russ, or anything you have concerns about that you want to make sure they touch? Okay. Andy?
And a couple things, they're still working on the, they've got the boilers all plumbed in, and then they'll hope to fire it this week, they're still gonna put the vents out.
Let's hope so.
So, good thing we ordered it when we did, you know, I mean, it's a completely different animal than what was there, so, anyway, I talked to him Saturday, he came out to fix something at my place, so.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
We can get you running, but
It was just a wire came off of a screw, they put it back on the war, still causing me. And Dina called me and wanted to know, I told her, go ahead, she said that the signs that they had at the office, treasurer's office, people were having trouble finding it because it's kind of, I don't know what it was, older people couldn't, you know, she said it needs to be redone. I said, well, get it redone. Yeah.
I noticed the other day when I was by there that it's on the small side and it's harder to read, so it needs to be, I agree.
I told her, I said, well, if people are having trouble, by
Yeah,
all means take it,
I
whatever
can
you
see
got
how
to take care of
some
it.
people would have problems, but it's
So I
hard to
told-
read and small.
I feel like this is a big one, so go ahead. I told her to go ahead. As far as insurance, as JR, I've been keeping it on the emails. We're waiting to hear from him now. He's got all the information at this point, correct?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, he said he sometime talked like that maybe this week he'd get back with
He
The dollar
emailed
figure?
me, I assumed he emailed everybody. He said he would have a quote from them this week.
Okay, that's what,
Yeah.
yeah.
And thanked everybody for their cooperation. We did do it at warp speed. Everybody did a good job.
You feel kinda like maybe he's a little more than what was done in the past? Yeah.
He was a little bit more thorough,
Yeah,
and that's fine.
that's good. I think, yeah.
And he was gonna dive into, and I haven't seen his product, but he was gonna dive in and make sure that stuff was erased that was already adjudicated or thrown out of court, so we didn't get hit
Charged
with
for that.
reserves.
Right.
That's like that one case, without being specific.
Okay.
I mean, there was close to $1 million reserve on it, and the judges tossed everything, appeal and everything was tossed out, so. Okay.
That's all I got.
Catman,
I was out, stopped in last week at the animal shelter, Linda was working, everything's running smoothly, so. And Andrew called this morning, she's back working after being quarantined for 14 days. She has some pins that need to be repaired, and she was gonna hire somebody, I said, go ahead and do it, get them done before we leave, so. Everything's running smoothly now, so. Linda said anything out there about, nothing? Good shape.
items 16 and 17 in the budget
I saw that.
have nothing to do with any, she can't use that funds
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. We
So-
talked about that before, so.
Right, so
No
that,
problem.
we did not touch the adoption fund or any
Or
of the funds.
donation fund.
Or, yeah, no, we never touched the donation fund, but that was all. Okay,
Still working on vouchers, I don't know how it's gonna work. Can't find any veterinarians that wanna do it for what we wanna give the $75, so. It said there's one guy in Terre Haute, or one veterinarian in Terre Haute that will do 2 a month, but she hasn't really said how much he would do them for, so I don't know. So I'm still working on it,
we'll help her if she needs it.
so, yeah.
Okay,
We're gonna have a meeting set up, and Bud and I and Andy will get together and.
Dan, is there a day better than next where I can catch them and drop off their AED, do you know?
Do what?
I need to drop off the animal shelter AED, is there one day better than the other to catch them out there?
Barry did first of the week. They work, I don't know exactly how they work. Linda works part-time, usually in the mornings, and then Andrew works, I think 4 days a week. I don't know exactly.
There's normally someone there unless they're on a call or something.
Right.
So you
Usually
just-
8 to 4. I do have a phone number.
I was gonna say,
I can
give
give
us
it
a
to
phone
you.
number, call, schedule.
Similar card.
I'll get it afterwards.
Yeah.
Thanks.
okay, thank you. Russ? Carl?
Last week or the week before, Dirk was in here and was talking about the building out here, and he mentioned about the 2 doors. And, we thought, well, why do we need 2 doors? But Scott called me.
Right, we got an answer on that, yeah.
And I said, well, the reason, we thought, well, you just got one vehicle, but he explained why sometimes, when a funeral home comes, it would be nice to have either a bigger door or 2 doors. And I said, whatever you want, whatever you think is necessary, you talk to Dirk and do it.
Yeah, and he wasn't called and told that we're gonna subtract 1 door.
Right.
We just wanted to understand why,
Why?
because none of,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, and we understand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no problem.
And Dirk called me and he said, I said, I don't
I
have a
told him
problem with it, yeah.
yeah.
Well, you probably have this cooler on one side anyway. If they get
Well,
a
no, that's
cooler.
gonna be turned, but in order to transfer, quite frankly, a body,
Mhm.
you wanna do that in a rather secured and out of sight way,
Yeah,
okay? Out of respect to the family and to the deceased,
right.
okay? So, can understand it. And that was a question we had to have, because people may ask us, why the heck did you put 2 doors in? So. Anything else, Carl?
Not right now.
Nope,
Thank you, Phil.
you're welcome.
Lisa?
No.
Anything on the meetings that you went to, or anything that you wish to share?
No, I think I shared one last time, so I'm good.
That's fine, I just wanna make sure. I'd like to go through this budget, not through the budget, through the agenda to make sure that we're all on the same thing. Number 8 is what we talked about in the highway meeting, which is a letter and goes into all the receipts and disbursements and all the things that they found from 13 through 18. And it is in your packet. Resolution to approve budget and levy ordinances, and for the year December 1st, 21 through November 30th, 22. They did make the changes that we talked about making, the questions that you asked me. You do have the final product that Augie will, okay? So if you pass those out, I don't need one, but some of you may need it. With your permission on Wednesday, I will go into some of the program part of that budget, especially Fund 100, that is going to make it possible in this coming year to issue a challenge to some of the problems we're having in the judicial system, the HRC cooperation, and how a lot of the agencies over the past year have worked with the board to work out ways that we can attack problems. Not that we figured everything out, but at least we've got a concerted effort to approach some of the problems in the county that have existed for a number of years, not just those caused by COVID, but things that should have a lasting impact that the budget makes possible. Does anybody have a problem with us talking about that at the meeting? Because we want to highlight those things. Just, you know, if I hear something from people, like if I go to the cafes in the morning and have coffee, one of the biggest subjects is we don't feel like we're protected like we should be. Okay, and we need to let folks know that we're working with the sheriff's department and everybody, HRC, from all different angles to make improvements in the safety and security of our citizens. So, and hopefully you guys will chime in and, you know, if you have thoughts about the thing also. Yes?
Blood and I have coffee with the group every morning, and usually the topic of conversation is, what's wrong with the county? You're not doing anything for the county. And you try to explain what we're doing, and they don't understand. I mean, you might as well just be talking to a stump. It kind of bothers me that, you know,
I
we
think
work
that they are
our
somewhat
bottoms
right.
off, and the county's in good shape.
Talk is cheap.
Yeah.
And hopefully, through some of the things we're starting to do, with not just us, but our
Right.
folks that are cooperating, we'll start to see some improvement
I
in
had
what.
no idea just how much you guys do.
Right.
So, and it's,
Just
your
like
hands, you
said.
got your fingers in
I mean,
all kinds of
right, I
pots.
mean, what you do is, there's nobody in the whole state would do what you do on the budget.
No, we're not saying
What
that.
are we gonna do when you retire or quit? Who's gonna do it? I'm not.
There is nobody that's indispensable.
Well,
There's somebody that will
there's some that's
step
pretty
up for a
close.
group of people.
There's some that's pretty close to me, and then Carl's another one with the jail. I mean, me, I'm just going along for the ride.
I thought you had this well in hand. That's what you told me.
You were okay right then, you know.
Don't put that in the paper.
Next time he says, just stay another week, you better get back here.
I'm sorry, but
No, but your point's well taken.
Yeah.
But people need to see,
They need to see
they don't
what
need to
we
hear
do.
talk.
Yeah.
They need to hear,
And him-
or they need to
Gary does
see.
a great job in the paper, but trying to make them believe what we're doing is almost impossible for some of them. I mean,
Those types
it's
of
like,
people. are
it's
never
like, why
gonna
don't we have a
satisfy.
jail? We're taxing and we're getting all this money. Why aren't we building a jail? That's every day it's the same point.
They don't realize it takes time to do
Right.
that
You
stuff.
try to
There's
explain
all
it to them.
kinds of things you gotta do working up to it.
It's like doing road work.
Yeah.
It takes years to get something done, they just don't realize what's going
What
down
you
the
go-
pipe.
what
And you gotta, step by step, you gotta,
I do stand up for you.
Us, if, this isn't us, Steve.
Pardon?
Okay? This isn't us, Steve.
Yeah.
The state's attorney, the judges,
Yeah.
HRC,
Well, that's
the
another.
hospital.
let's
I
blame-
mean,
let's blame
everybody's
those
trying to
drugs
work
to
together,
help.
together on this deal.
Yeah.
I mean, people, developments, things that happened this week, I mean, I've gotten a few people
Mhm.
wanting to know what's going on.
Right. But, you
Well,
try to explain.
Meters got
as much
broke
as you can.
into.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Some other thing, yeah, wow, that's right.
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It would take a beating.
I thought
Really
that
do.
was,
anyway,
well, at any rate,
People
we'll
about
talk
it.
about that further. Hopefully, you know, we can make it clear what we're trying to do and that we have an outline and we're trying, so.
Correct.
We'll talk about number 10 in the special meeting, or I'm sorry, the committee meeting we're gonna have here in a minute. Or is it a special meeting?
It's
What
a
do we
public
have?
hearing.
Oh, public hearing, we'll talk about that, sorry, I couldn't remember the name. Okay, we need to talk about, so we're not fumbling around, what kind of donation that we want to make to the War Memorial on the east side of the courthouse. Do any of you have
what,
any?
what do they need, did he say?
Yeah, that's my.
Well, he kind of just said, we'd like you to make a donation,
He didn't
or
make
ask for a donation. He didn't designate what he would like to see.
The paper on the weekend had how much they've received, how much they need. What, remember the difference between the two?
As I recall, Dan had set a goal of 25 and
They
they
got
raised,
17.
they did raise 17 plus.
So why couldn't we make the difference between 17 and 25?
Do we have the money to do
We
that?
could, but I think that's,
I just
I
wondered.
think we
Does
need
that set
to,
the precedent? Well, I don't know.
My
I just wondered.
my opinion is I think we need to make not a substantial, but what would you call it, an effective donation. And then if they run into problems later on,
that's kind of what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
I
I
like
mean,
that.
rather than,
Maybe give 3,000, like up to 20, and that's
This
gives
is
them
an on, this is
25.
still an ongoing
Yes.
donation thing. Is there a time they need it by? I mean, they've obviously got money to get things rolling, correct?
yes.
Maybe-
I was thinking 1,000 is what I was thinking. And then say that if more is needed, that they
Give us-
should come
give
back.
us- Give us a call.
Yeah,
Yeah, because he told me before the meeting the other day that he's contacted several other businesses and banks and stuff, and they've all committed, but they just haven't sent the money in
So I
yet.
think that's-
So he's got more money coming in, I don't know how much.
Does legal have a GoFundMe? I mean, can they do that?
as far as I know,
Go
yeah.
GoFundMe.
I know, but we can't run them, they
Well, I
can't
know
run
that.
their deal for them.
Just-
Okay.
Just do what Jeff said. That sounds like a good,
I mean, if you guys have further thoughts on it, and you think that's inappropriate, that's
you,
fine.
well, you already said, if you need more, you're gonna problems come back, we can deal with it then.
I think that is an appropriate amount to do.
That's fine.
Okay, approve Kevin Smith, approve holiday count. Anybody you have it in your packet, the holiday calendar that we all sort of said, yeah, it's not great, but we can agree to. Okay. Okay, we have Hanson Engineering out at the airport that has projects already that we have to advertise and approve a engineer to do our projects out at the airport. We have 3 projects that they're not assigned in, so we need to advertise for qualifications from an engineer to do these 3 projects, which would include the main runway. The Plackies are thinking the the extension of the taxiway and extension of the east apron. Those 3 are not covered in the current approval of our engineers, so we need to go out for advertisement for an engineer that's interested in doing that work, and we need approval to do that. The state helps us do that, but the board has to take action. Are there questions about that? Okay. I'm sorry it took me a while to figure that out. Resolution for the treasurer to transfer 40 grand under the farm fund into the general fund. It's a normal thing that we do to recover some of the expenses we've done out of the main budget. So, that's the agenda. Do we have any questions about that? Don will be at meetings, but not every meeting. He was assuming we were still trying to de-emphasize the meetings with our department heads, and I said I think we're to the point where we can we would encourage you to come in. I gave him an example, and a couple of weeks ago, we could have used his expertise on something, and it'd be nice to have him there, and he will be there, okay? And Dina, the same way. So we're gonna spread the word out that, come on back, we'd like to hear from you, and everybody become active in the interchange of ideas with the board, okay? I think just everybody was still thinking COVID, and we needed to shift gears. Let's see, on my list, if there's anything else here. Ordinance. I think we're good. So, yes, I was gonna ask if there's anything else.
On the, we have Edgar County Health Department meeting this month, and we have one vacancy for sheriff, and I have a person that's interested in that. And I'll bring that up at the meeting.
That's fine.
We may need another, and
Okay.
I'm not gonna give any information right now, but,
Just,
so how do we go about that? Do we?
they make a recommendation
Okay,
to
and they
me.
come with you?
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
and we
I didn't
assume
know.
that it'll be, somebody who's intimately involved in the health
Well,
system in our
one
county.
wants to be on it for sure, and she's a nurse, she's been a nurse for years, so she's really interested. The other one, but don't you have to have so many doctors, so many lay people, or is
No,
it
there's
a combination?
lay
There is, I think.
I think there needs to be at least one layperson,
Okay.
okay? Obviously, health professionals are preferred.
Right.
Okay.
I have one like that, but we may have another vacancy.
Ollie and his crew will know what's.
Okay, I just wondered how it works.
Have you talked to the other board members as far as you've got someone that's interested?
In the way I have, and the way I haven't.
Okay.
I didn't want to bring a name up because Cindy, I didn't, just give a period of time
Right.
before I brought that up. But we may have another vacancy also.
Okay,
Um,
so you'll discuss it at the
Yeah,
meeting?
meeting coming up.
And then we can make an appointment.
Okay.
And then eventually, if there's another appointment, we can do it later. But we can fill that vacancy in December if the health department board thinks that's
The
appropriate.
problem was, last meeting, we didn't have a quorum. We have a couple doctors that don't show up either, so we couldn't do anything.
Hmm.
So we had three.
Maybe you need to meet a different time.
I tried that. So.
How many, is there 7 members?
Yeah,
7.
yeah, well, one's from Christmas, she has trouble getting down. And we have one that gets on the, whatever it is, on the computer once in a while. We have trouble getting.
Let us know, and we'll take care of
Okay,
it.
all right, thanks.
Anything else to come before the meeting this morning? Do we need a closed session for anything? All right. Motion to adjourn. Andy moves. Russ seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. We'll wait a couple minutes.
Little nice flip phone, just 2 months, Scotty.
Hey, quit talking about my phone.
Are we on? Okay, I'd like to declare the public hearing open, and the first order of business would be to call the roll. Augie?
Yeah, Voight,
Yes?
Ellis.
Yes.
Ludington, Farnham,
There.
Lawton, Bruner, Patrick.
Okay.
Good job,
The
Augie.
next order of business is drawing for terms of the county board districts. And you can add or subtract verbiage at this point, however you'd like to do it.
So what we've done, we are required to draw by lot for board districts. And there will be two groups. Group one will be a 2-4-4 term, and group two will be a 4-4-2 term, which means your district will serve a 2 years, then a 4 year, and then a 4 year, or a 4 year, 4 year, and a 2 year.
That's pretty good,
And
Sam.
that would be 4-year, 4-year, 2-year, and 3 2-year, 4-year,
Did he just
4-year.
say
Yes.
that?
Just
Yeah,
what he
well,
said.
so group one is a 2-4-4.
Just give me a number.
There's 3 of them,
Yeah, give me
and then group two has the 4-4-2, and there's 4 of those.
Just tell me which
Well,
one.
as soon as we pick the numbers, you tell me what I did. will you?
Same way.
You can read it, I'll write it down, and if there's, I don't know, the best way to do it is just start out with District 1, draw, then 2, draw, then 3, unless there's an,
What district I'm
That's fine.
I don't know.
in?
does that sound like a plan?
Suits me, Augie.
And none of the districts changed, I'm thinking more the Paris ones. None of
Well-
the districts changed based upon the latest population.
That's another issue we're gonna talk about in the future. I mean, once we get through this, we need to talk about what's gonna happen in light of the action by the General Assembly and the signature of the governor here over the weekend.
I really
So
trust him.
Jeff, maybe that's a good time to,
Okay,
I'm just,
yeah,
that's an awesome question.
okay, go ahead.
So the legislature, if I could use a World Series analogy, they threw us a nasty sinker ball. And just in the late hours, they decided that for counties with inhabitants of under 3 million, which is everybody except Cook County, we are required to change our precinct size to 1,200
Registered.
registered voters to 1,200, as near as possible we can. Now, to give you an idea, currently the law is 800, and we had to split Sims precinct, because I think it got like to 840 or 50, some crazy number. So we had to split them. We had to split Paris 5 because I think it was like 900. So we split that and came up with 4, 5, and 15. And so after all of that, now they want us to undo that, put them back together, so to speak. So we have to figure out how that is all gonna fit in. And unless the bill's been sent to the governor for his signature,
He already signed it.
he did sign it, okay? So he signed it, so there it is. And we're supposed to have this all done by end of February, I believe. And,
But we got 60 days to come up with the precinct lists.
right. So we thought what we would do, we thought we would just go ahead and proceed under the current law and just do what we're gonna do, and then we'll come back and we'll amend it, the reapportionment plan, because that will affect what we're doing here today, you know.
We're still, though, gonna go with, we still can, under the new law, go with 7 county board districts. That still remains the same. It begs to see how it's gonna actually line up, how we're gonna do that. Because if you take 1,200 registered voters into 12,000 some odd,
Yeah.
that we currently have how many precincts?
We currently have 31 precincts.
And that would take it down to 10. Okay?
10 bigger precincts.
10
And
big
Now,
precincts.
you said 1,200, correct?
1,200 registered
registered
voters.
voters.
Is that a max, or is that
It says as close as you can get
to
to
that?
1,200.
Well, I thought the deal with before, and I remember when we split Sims, was because there were too many, you went above the 800.
Yes, that's right.
Correct.
That's absolutely right.
So, but now it's like, well, they want you to approach that number versus,
Yeah, I've not read the actual language in the bill, if it's a shall or a may,
yeah,
or no, not to exceed.
right, okay.
Okay, among numerous other things, the bill as amended requires each county with a population, like he said, to divide its election precincts so that each precinct contains 1,200 registered voters or near thereto as may be practical.
Well, yeah, not any of it's practical, in my opinion.
Well, then, yeah, that
So
right,
that-
the very
that-
last bit there
That may
kind of
be,
says, don't worry about it.
and Jeff, are you reading from UCCI? Okay,
That's what I just did.
okay, just wanna make sure that,
You gotta get
That's-
copies of that too.
I will have copies for that.
So, if you got precincts, so precinct is, that includes townships.
Right?
So if you got,
I tried to look at it like precinct 1. You could divide the District
District.
1. You could divide, she's got 3 townships.
correct,
Okay? You could divide one township is gonna have to be split. Okay? You can maintain District 1, as near as what I can
Right.
see. Same way with District 2. Instead of having 6 townships, you would have, or 6 townships in 6 different precincts, you would have 3. So
It's the same area, it's just,
it's just
Just
combined,
divide it
like
different.
just
like,
combine them different.
Prairie and, well, in my district, Burlett's Creek and Edgar would become one precinct.
But you would still list them on here like they are because they're different townships?
No,
No, you would, so this would strictly go by precinct.
right.
So like mine would be, actually would be Prairie, Ross 1, Ross 2, and Young America.
Or whatever they become,
Because it's Ross 1 and Ross 2 now,
right.
right?
You'd have to look at, they have to be contiguous. So you gotta be careful about how you do it. But like Augie and I discussed, what was it, Friday or?
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning, we're gonna get with our election vendor and with Bellwether to see if they have, what they have, and get definitive information on it. Because none of us has actually seen the bill in its entirety.
Right.
so that would not affect the township government itself,
No.
it's just the voting.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work with electing a town, I mean, okay, say you make a precinct out of Burlett's Creek and Edgar, and they're now one precinct, are you gonna have 2 different ballots in the precinct to elect township supervisor?
You see, it just got real complicated.
Oh, I understand, I mean, it's driven me nuts all weekend.
Just like we talked earlier about the,
Yeah.
I mean, this
They always gonna have 7.
world is getting out of
Well,
control.
that's, we
And the
can still
ones
do,
that are not
yes.
the 71% don't
What
have
happens
a
if you
clue.
don't do anything?
Right,
Otherwise they.
Well, then
that
you
never
wind
comes.
up,
state.
you
Oh, yeah,
get the
don't
watchdogs.
realize that.
Well, but the last sentence in that
So that's a
said,
good word. I like it.
or,
Well, we don't know, we
What is
don't
the
know.
purpose of
That's,
all this?
but we
It's
need to
crazy.
tell you this.
what's downstate gonna do?
Because absolutely asked
Figure it
not to
out.
make any change.
No, and then when you get into, the townships are a little easier. So for example, you just take, gosh, I don't know.
Well, you can take my townships, really. Edgar and Burlett's Creek become one precinct, Shiloh and, help me.
Embarrass.
Embarrass, and then last Kansas stands alone. I mean, but that's still not gonna be,
No, and if you were to draw a line, hypothetically, right down the center of a township and just split it in half, that's one thing. But when you get inside the Paris, and they all sort of You know, they all kind of meet right
Which
here.
side of the street?
Which side of the street, and is it the alley? And it's not a straight line.
No.
It's a curve, not a curve, you know, there's all kinds of right angles in there, and
That's why we're gonna
It's a
have to
cluster.
turn it over to the pros as soon as we can.
This is a nightmare.
Yes, it is.
Thinking
now,
about,
UCCI has indicated that they've reached out to the governor's office basically to find out why, you know, and
this will be interesting hearing this answer.
it will be. What's the thought process? And then as far as that goes, maybe we should all contact our state senator and our state representative and ask them, which I am going to do. But this is, so it's gonna be a nightmare, not just for me, but for every county. Not to mention the expense in that.
Got a headache yet, Carl?
New boundary lines, it's gonna require mass mailings of voter cards and letters and
Just
the amount of time, the questions that county clerks are gonna receive.
That kind of reminds you of the last general election.
It absolutely does.
Strictly,
You just throw every wrench in it you can, and you can't
Right.
tell who won or what's right or what's.
Well, think of how our people are gonna be unsettled by this. For
Oh,
generations, some of our folks for generations have had a certain precinct, they've been a judge, their
Right.
grandmother was a judge. Now you're throwing that all out, or
Yep.
possibly could be throwing that all
That's right.
out.
that's right.
But how's that, like I'm precinct, or District 5, how's that affect people that would vote for me if I run again?
Well, it could change the
That's what I mean,
dynamics
that's what
of
I
your
wondered, yeah.
precincts totally.
right.
I mean, you could be.
It'll change everybody's.
Yeah, everybody's.
But you could have like two running, but you, to me, you'd have two different people getting votes. There's gonna be one person. That's why, I'm just wondering.
Okay, the districts, once this is all done, then the districts, with that in mind, there'll be 7 districts, all right?
Okay, still 7 districts.
7
But-
districts.
But instead
But
of,
you're mixing up districts with
But we don't,
precincts.
right,
we
instead
don't-
of 3 or 4 precincts, you may
I
only
see
have
what
2
you mean,
precincts.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know the basic reason for this, do we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the
Other-
basic
I mean,
reasons.
so do I. I
I'm
mean, we
in
can all
five.
sit here and we
Okay.
know,
The
but
first one, first
how the hell they get away with this?
So maybe,
It is middle of the night,
I
or-
said, if you change
They do
people,
that kind of
vote-
thing.
They
vote
think
for
they
me.
get more
In
votes
other words,
out
I
of
could have
Well,
somebody.
anyway, we thought we'd
let's
go
go
ahead
to
with
the
what we have.
It depends.
Yeah, if it
But
changes
that's
the
why they
boundaries,
did it in
yeah.
the middle of the night.
And somebody in Curtis 5 would vote for me, because
Well, you may not have half of your
That's what I'm saying,
constituents
yeah.
right now.
not right
that you
now, mine's
currently
probably
have.
the
But-
most populated change. My
You-
district, 'cause-
You could have 800 of your old constituents and 400 new constituents, okay?
and only 12 voted for you, what do you care?
No, I had 11 votes. I had 2 votes, I'm telling my wife.
There are no answers. You needed to know
No,
what
this-
we're up
This
against.
is ridiculous. That's all
It
it is.
absolutely is.
But it is our responsibility
I'm gonna pay
to
some-
follow the law, and with the help of professionals, we'll get the job done, whatever it
It's
is.
gonna wear you out, isn't it? And you're, yeah,
Well, that's why he needs to rely on, what's his name?
Ken
Ken and Bruce.
and Bruce.
And they were trying to work up a program that would do this. In other words, you put all the information from a county into this computer, and then it spits out new districts.
It's gotta be done by January, because that's when we pick up
We have
our-
60 days
Yeah.
from when the governor signs, and maybe he hasn't signed, maybe I'm incorrect. Because I thought I read that he did, but I go back and I can't see. So whenever he signs it, we have 60 days in which to draw up the new precincts.
But no later than,
Well, and then if we don't do our job, then we're bad people and it goes to another committee and they will do it. So, anyway, you wanna draw now?
So it doesn't depend upon the population within our township, it just depends upon the registered voter.
That's
Yes.
correct.
yes.
That much we do know.
And I've run that report this morning.
Do you
So-
have that?
I do have a copy of that. obviously have not had time to analyze that.
But can we see a
You
copy?
absolutely can see a copy of that, and I,
I've been good in Chicago with all the dead people.
I mean, not that we're gonna, there's
Well,
nothing
we risk-
really we can see to do with it, but at least we know what we've got.
You know, in Georgia, some people voted for 3 different districts, same person.
Well, I
But there's
heard
no
in
cheating.
Chicago, they're tearing down the big fences and gates around the cemeteries. Makes it easier for everybody to vote.
I didn't realize we were.
Yeah, with that, I saw on Facebook,
Get into
if
this
I
detail,
die
right?
soon,
had
just don't let
copies.
me vote Democratic.
You see that sign?
Yeah, if I die, don't let me vote Democratic. The sad thing is, there's a lot of truth in that,
I know.
and and
And
they
you
get away
get
with it.
declared that you're not a good person if you want to purge the voter list and update it. Then you get called names.
Well, I will tell you, on Prairie, 222 registered voter, or 222 is our population for the 2020 census. And I know Matt's mom, or Matt's uncle and his wife have already died, so it's now like 220 probably. And I don't know that we've had one baby since then that I know of. So in our little township of 220 people, several of us were trying to think, and unless there's somebody in Scotland, because there could be, there is not a single household headed up by somebody in their 20s. There's only like 2 or 3 headed up by somebody in their 30s. There's only one new house being built, and they're building it next to the house they already live in. It's a scary thing out in the boonies. Really scary. And there's only 10, less than 10 households headed up by somebody in their 40s.
The rest of them are in their 70s and 80s.
Matt and I are considered younger.
Well, you are.
I know I look it, but thank you very much for the compliment.
Jeez, that's just a backhanded compliment.
But, you know, you think
I
about
know
that.
everything.
I don't keep track of which district you guys
Okay.
are in. I know what Lisa and I are in, and that's about it.
That figures.
They come in 5.
Just take care of some people, what the hell the rest of us?
5.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're not
That's
6
it.
and 7.
You need to get my,
You're not 4.
district around the golf course.
You're 5, 1, 2, and 3.
So I can buy a house there.
I found out which one.
That's good. I'm gonna sleep better
What,
tonight.
process elimination?
You'll just
Yes,
forget
on
in 2
process
days.
elimination.
So what are
The
you,
leagues want 5.
You'll be asking in a
number?
couple of weeks what precinct you're in anyway, or district.
you go around, and 5 is the one that's left, that's him, right? That's a college educated
I think mine's the most
team.
populated.
Can you imagine going from 31 precincts down to 10?
That's crazy.
No, Court Street separates
What's the
mine.
impact?
Because I had Pete Templeton sign my
In
thing, and
how
it was illegal because he
government
was in
actually
the
functions.
district. And then one side, Court Street
Well,
separates
everybody,
mine.
you know,
Yeah, I didn't
this
realize
voter can still vote. It may affect certain areas of Paris, I would think, more than others, right?
'Cause
I
I'm
would think
thinking-
in our county, it might disenfranchise some people.
Well, I'm still gonna be voting because nothing really changes for me other than there's Ross 1 and Ross 2. But, you know, we all still
Well, you
vote in the
have 4
same.
townships. I'm sorry.
I have 3 townships, 4 precincts.
Oh,
my
is that it?
understanding.
Okay.
Yeah. Your township government doesn't change. We're all still voting at whatever the place is that we decide in Chrisman for Prairie and Ross, Young America's over that way. But what's the impact other than their
That's the
precinct committee?
question, why, other than what we think is going on, it's
Democrats.
going on everywhere.
Democrats.
Trying to figure out a way to seal every election.
Right.
I'm sure this is a veiled attempt at trying to affect certain counties.
Yep.
Maybe not ours,
Right.
and maybe
Maybe
not
Champaign.
Douglas, but they've calculated that this will affect
Champagne's on your phone.
something along the way. I'm guessing in the Collar counties and in some of the bigger counties that have huge cities,
Right.
like Aurora,
The Champaign,
Rockford.
Champaign, Urbana, that'd be one. think it is, because
Take one, pass it around.
that's something that Champagne paid for.
Yes, I just can't think of what.
Then take one and pass it around. There's two different ones coming, okay? One is the breakdown by county board district, and the other one is the actual precinct number by registered voters.
Young America has two.
You should have an extra one there, Andy. Or someone's taken two,
Oh.
because there were,
That do me?
that'd be you, the new guy.
There's two in here, I don't know.
Eh.
There's two in here. Somebody can get here.
Oh, there two in that one too?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got ahead of each other. So now you should each have, at the top, it'll say county board district all, and then precinct all. Is that what you guys got?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, under this, for example, look at the one on county board districts. I'm just picking mine out because I don't want to pick anybody else's out. But I've got 1,655 total voters in my district. And they want us to be at 1,200, so that would mean that I would lose Kansas.
That made it.
And that's how you could take care of me. That's one option. Then I would have like a slightly over 1,200 voters.
So where does Kansas go in?
Well, then that's where you'd have to start looking at down there to see how that was affected.
Some connected.
This is absolutely asinine.
And see,
Double A.
well, see,
Because-
you've got 5 precincts. So you would be all right if you lost, Lisa, if you lost Young America 1, except you can't, because then you would not have a contiguous.
In the middle of nowhere, then.
Right.
Right, but they would, I don't understand why they're separate now. If there's only 305 in one and 137 in the other, that would make them well
How
under
much-
800.
what's the number they
unless
want
had a
each- in
Huge
each?
death loss up there.
So the law says you can't have any more than, it doesn't say the minimum.
Oh, no.
And I hate to say, because that's the way it's always been, but that's the way it's always been.
But it's not for your district 1,200, it's the precincts.
Correct. But
Right.
you've got to create new precincts now
Right.
that have as near 1,200 in them as possible.
Okay, so if you don't mind, let's look at mine,
Which one's
where
that?
nobody lives, District 1.
The first one.
So we can leave them all the way they are, but we could not, because they're under, each is under 1,200?
No,
See,
not
that's what we need to actually
don't
read the law that's been signed.
Right.
If
And
it's,
they're gonna come out with regs, the Department of, or what's it called, elections? The Board of Elections is gonna come out with their
yeah,
interpretation of
the
this.
election code.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just really fresh, we just got it, and,
Well-
but it's the talk of the state, I guarantee you, that people are talking like we are, but
I
if
want it
it,
left alone because it's easy to say, yeah, everything north of 36.
it actually, and if you look at those numbers, registered voters, you're all fairly close. I mean, it actually is, the way it is now is,
Pretty good.
it's really pretty good,
Right.
really pretty good.
Well, we don't wanna leave it that way. Hell, that wouldn't be sensible.
That makes too much sense.
But we'll do whatever the law tells us to do, whether we like it or not.
Well,
And I think it's a waste of time. So, we're not gonna figure this out today.
That's why I said. what if we
But
don't
there,
do it?
those are the numbers, and so I believe that the plan is we still have 7 districts. Those districts, well, you know what they are right now, but they will be subject to change, and we can always amend the plan if we need to.
Well,
Now, but that's up to you all. If you don't wanna draw now, but we gotta do it by the end of the year.
Yeah, 'cause Because by the date, then it's out of our control and it goes to a commission appointed by the judge, I think, and
It's just draws.
So this isn't beneficial to the downstate at all.
It can't possibly be.
Well, then, isn't the downstate going to, I mean, I say, we stand back and say, well, we're not gonna do it. You get everybody else saying,
There
we're not
may
gonna
be
do it.
lawsuits,
Right, I would think there would be.
but
This is, the whole project is ridiculous to begin with.
So if there are lawsuits, it'll all be put on hold, so we might as well go ahead
Right.
because we'll probably
That's
be
what
the way
we're
it is
thinking.
anyway.
We
we just thought it'd be better to have something in place.
Right.
And we, if the governor hasn't signed it, which I could be wrong, we've at least done our job under the current law. Okay?
Let's draw.
Yeah.
Is that?
That's exactly what we talked
You
about.
and I talked about
I think
Saturday.
that's a prudent
And
way to
then if-
approach it.
depending
Thank
on
you for
what
dragging this all
happens,
along.
you know, maybe at our next meeting, we
Thank you
could
for dragging this
pass
all
something
along.
saying we don't like it and send a letter
I think,
to
yeah,
Springfield.
yep. I think so.
Absolutely.
I think
We're not doing it.
we get on there with the other counties and say, hey, we don't like this.
You can't get any better than that. That looks pretty dang good to me.
Well, I wanna know what practical means.
Yeah.
Because we may just say, it's practical to leave it the way it is.
Well, the way that you, that last sentence was the important sentence in that whole thing.
That's why I wanted to read it to you.
Right.
But that could be, it wasn't in quotes.
That could be
okay?
their interpretation.
That could be their interpretation, so we need to,
Well,
we need to get with our election vendors, with the election commission and et cetera.
And as the day unfolds, I'm sure I will see and hear from other counties, especially in our zone, well, throughout the state. And hopefully I'll have something positive to report to you on
We
Wednesday.
can still choose how many districts we are. So except for us individually and who we campaign with, I don't see a lot of changes for us in this county. I mean, it could change the dynamics of the precincts in each district a little bit, but this is a small county. Hell, we all know what, roughly, I bet we all know at least 50% of the population, each one of us. So, I mean, they're all our friends, neighbors, and we catch hell from them sometimes, and sometimes we get patted on the back, and that's not gonna change. Draw.
District 1,
ladies first.
lady first.
What society we live in.
And a fancy basket that is, thank you. No, that's not what I wanted, but okay.
What does it say?
244.
Okay.
I'll change it.
You can't. How we can.
What, we can't negotiate?
Yeah,
What the
okay.
hell, this is America.
Yeah.
Freaking Democrat anyway.
We gotta do everything on the up and up and I'll buy oil, otherwise we'll just,
Oil,
yeah. The card player,
I know who the hell he is.
oh, pardon
He's a
me.
Democrat too. He's really pissed at the whole system. I have never
Yeah,
seen
why?
anything this country in the last 2 or 3 years what's happened.
442. God, I wish we had a change.
Now hang on to it.
442.
You have an option.
All right,
You weren't
now,
thinking, you don't have to
Free,
run.
that's you.
I was thinking, it just wasn't working.
Don't have to run, right? Yeah.
Well, you just told me I had to, or have you got things under control?
Well, I told you, stay on your vacation down a week, everything about it.
What'd you get?
442.
That was a great vehicle. I
That's
love that
that's about all of
automobile.
442.
That was a good car.
That's about all of
That was like a
442.
tank.
It was.
And if you had the, what was it, the 455 in it? Is that how big that engine was?
4 barrels, 4.
Can you believe that?
What it-
That's
Who's,
a Chevy
what
Nova
happened?
with
442.
the V8 in it.
You had a Chevy
Who did?
Nova with a V8?
Oh, yeah.
442?
How about Roman?
That's about all of it.
Well, just to make sure I didn't mess up.
What's your number?
Here, okay, we already know what the rest are gonna be, but we're gonna
Okay.
draw them anyway.
All right, I got
The
one.
rest of them will be 2,
Yeah.
4, 4.
We already know what the rest of them are gonna be.
Yeah.
6 7/8.
To a point.
He knew what it was,
That's
didn't
what
he?
mine's gonna be too.
So that means I got a 2-year term and one more coming up, and then assuming I'm not dead.
Check that out.
Wait a minute, I got, because you're 6, aren't you?
Yeah,
No.
I'm 5.
Okay, I got that out
That's
of
all,
order.
see, I told you, Augie.
But we'll fix that.
I would have been different.
Well, I already
if
know
I'd
what it
dropped
is.
if I'd
Go
have-
ahead, what'd you get?
Shit. 442. I can't make 4 years. I'll be dead by then.
Oh,
That
no,
probably should have
you'll
been
be
mine,
around here.
You'll be all right, shake it
Let's
off.
see,
Yep.
what could be?
I may get beat anyway.
Who's running against
I
you?
don't know.
Who's that? Who's that down left to run?
How can that be?
Backwards.
Oh, who got 442? Raise your hand.
Well, now that can't be right. I had 3 of them in
Yeah, I
there.
know what I'm gonna say.
442, you had 4 in.
Yeah.
442, you have 4 in.
Mine's 2, 4.
1, 2, 3,
What is it?
4.
442.
That's correct. That's
He just says,
he's got a 2.
no, he doesn't.
No, he
No,
doesn't.
he's
He's
got
got-
a
Okay.
He's, hey, he's
Who-
stupid, but he's not blind.
Who got a, wait a minute, hold up your slips if you've got a 442.
That's,
There's only 4 of us that got it.
Yeah.
So,
well, you,
Russ,
I'm at
Lisa,
244.
and.
okay,
two
well, you
full
told me 442.
No,
My apologies, so I was,
she wanted a
I
442.
wanted a 442.
See, you screwed the whole thing up, Lisa.
the whole thing out.
I went.
All right.
Lisa. You didn't see that, did you?
No. So, is it drawn?
It is. I'm gonna just pass this
I
around,
can't make it.
and I'd like for each of you to sign it,
Initial and sign.
initial it, sign
So,
it, send it
it just
around.
means that I gotta run for reelection again after 2 years, right?
Yeah.
That's the only
The
difference.
first time I
I
ran,
won't be here
mine was
before
for a 2-year term, and then I
Carl
withdrew
and I
again, and
both
I had
did.
another 2-year
Yeah.
term,
Right.
and then I've had 2 4-year terms.
I've
That's
had
how we'll do it.
And Carl and I both got a 2-year term to start with.
I have 2 now.
We're
2
4 now.
Correct.
Everybody is done at the end of this.
Next.
Everybody's up for reelection next November.
So mine was a partial and then a 1, and then it'll be a 2, and then a 4, and then.
You're making this more complex, Lisa. Put your name on it. Put Carl's in trouble.
I won't try to bring you up to speed on it, okay?
Oh, do you get, what do you get?
That's 2 shots in the day.
4-4.
You got 2
I'm sure
more.
you're in trouble.
Hey,
You want these,
look, look.
So is yours filling in a 1,
I
and then
mean,
you had a
yeah,
1?
yeah.
You have
Oh,
not
you had
had
4
to
years.
run?
You don't change your
No, you
ways.
did
did
run.
run, yes.
You did run.
Okay. so-
Okay, I filled in, you
Right, you
have
put,
run.
yeah, so I've got,
So you ran
mine's
for John was
Oh,
a 2-year term.
oh, it's 2.
Well, this is clear as mud.
Just those 2, 4, 4.
Yeah.
Since everybody has to run, you didn't get the 4, the benefit of the 4.
Okay.
Because see, I thought it was,
Yeah, when you ran, it was filling a 2-year term.
According to him.
You got a 442.
We good?
we are,
Now, you're gonna keep us abreast of
absolutely.
all the new poop that comes out of, and I say that with seriousness, the poop that comes out of
You
Springfield.
said.
That's a 4-letter word,
Same
Jeff.
sentence. I don't
Use
know.
the other, use the other word.
I can't say that.
No, you could.
Well, Gary won't put it in the paper.
Yeah, you might.
Yeah, you could put SH and then a,
You can put
And the
S.
We'll refer to it as green manure, how's that?
Okay.
So the other thing on the agenda, which we already did, was we presented the reapportionment plan. We've already talked about all that, 7 districts and 1 member per district, so. The compensation, with
will come up in, February and March.
February, March, yeah, because the law says that has to be set for all elected officials at least 180 days prior to when the term begins.
We decide what elected officials get in terms of type of.
Yeah.
What about we decide for ourselves what we get?
Do you remember what district you're in yet?
As long as you
Fine.
win.
What?
As long as you win.
I can do it by
We
process.
decide our compensation.
Right,
Yeah, that's kind of not a good thing.
process.
Well, you're deciding it for the future, not for the
Right. Yeah,
present.
you can't, yeah, for your term.
Oh, I get it, I get it.
For the future, people that get elected next year.
I get it, Carl.
Yeah. And the county board had, went 20 or 30 years with no
raise in compensation, and it was, what, 4 years ago we changed it?
2 or
Yeah,
4.
just, yeah.
No, 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was 4.
Yeah, because you didn't have to run 4 years ago, you ran 2 years ago, right? At any rate, so he
That's
didn't,
getting really tough.
I'm on a 4-year term.
right. Yeah, at any rate, so even though we change it, it may not catch up with certain board members for 2 years. Okay.
That figures.
Is there any other public comment, since this is a public hearing, that anybody wishes to add anything
Roger,
to?
you have anything to say?
I don't,
Are you confused or you just know everything?
I'm about as confused as everybody else.
I'd have to agree, Roger.
I need a motion to adjourn the public hearing. Andy moves. Russ seconds. That's becoming a deal. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you, everybody.